Hi, I'm Mike Carlin, and today we're going to discuss the MacroCore soil sampling system from Geoprobe Systems. The MacroCore soil sampling system is by far the most widely used soil sampling system in the direct push industry today. Historically, the sampler has been used primarily for continuous soil sampling, which means that we will be taking continuous soil cores one after the other consecutively. For today's demonstration, I'm going to show you a center rod system for the MacroCore coring system, which will allow us to do discrete soil sampling. And what I mean by discrete soil sampling is we will drive the sampler to a discrete depth and we will collect the soil sample and pull it out of the ground. We'll start with our liner and our core catcher, and we'll place the liner and the core catcher inside of the sample sheath. And then we'll install our center rod. And I'm going to put a little threaded plug protector in the bottom. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to protect the bottom of the threads as the bottom of this center rod seats inside of our solid drive point. So I'll seat my piston or my center rod into my solid drive point, and then I'll snap the cutting shoe onto the core catcher. And I'm ready to install components on the top end. We'll start by installing the MacroCore drive head. Tighten that down snug. Then we'll install our protective cap, which will protect the top of our 1¼ inch center rod. And we'll install the drive cap. We're going to sample from an interval of 12 feet to 16 feet. As I begin to push this first segment, I'm going to take my time and be sure to line this up to make sure that I have it perfectly vertical. Okay, I've advanced the first segment of the sampler, and I've removed my drive caps and my protective drive cap. Now I'm just ready to add another series of 4-foot rods to advance to the next segment. Okay, I've reached my intended sampling interval of 12 feet, so now I'm ready to pull my center rod system, and I'll do so with the winch. I'll be using a regen rod holder in place on top of my 2 1/8 inch probe rods, and this will allow me to pull the center rods with a winch, and then when I have to go down to remove a rod, I can actually use this tool to hold the rods in place for me. Now with my center rod system removed, I can add one last 4-foot segment of 2 1/8 inch probe rod, and I'll advance that 4 feet, and that will collect our soil sample from 12 to 14 feet. Okay, I've collected the actual soil sample inside the soil sampler. Now I'm going to retract the tool string to recover the soil sample. Okay, now we've collected our soil sample and I have my sampling station set up. I'll go ahead and disassemble the sampler, and we'll pull our soil core out of the MacroCore sampler and see what kind of recovery came up with. Chase the liner out with an existing liner. Makes it a little easier for me to just retrieve it manually. I'll set up my liner cutter, retrieve my point at the end. We're ready to cut the liner now, but one feature I want to show you is the writable feature on this liner. If there's a geologist on site, undoubtedly he's going to want to make some sort of notes on this liner, and rather than try to read them on clear PVC, it's much easier to see it on this white stripe. So we have the option of making some notes on the liner and capping them, or we can also cut it longitudinally if we want to do some sub-sampling. There are some other options with the MacroCore system. We do also use it as a what we call an open tube system, and that is simply where we don't use a piston point in place and we just drive an open sampler in the hole. And that can be advantageous in some formations, but if you deal with cave-in or slough, or you're really concerned about highly representative samples, we highly recommend using some sort of closed piston system. This is one system that we offer, and we also offer what we call a stop pin system, which is for maybe a little bit more softer probing conditions. We use this system today because of the harsh probing conditions we have here in the cobbles that we know that exist downhole. We know that that system probably wouldn't be very conducive to this type of sampling. So that concludes our demonstration on the MacroCore soil sampling system with 1¼ inch center rods.